Welcome back to Sinking No Longer, Week 11. We left off in Genesis 46. What we didn't talk about last time was that in chapter 41, we see Joseph have two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and they will show up later as we go through Exodus. For now, though, we're going to skip ahead to chapters 49 and 50 in Genesis. Jacob is going to bless his sons, all 12, by name, and then he passes away. And Joseph shows great love and grace to his brothers, gives them land and food. They remember that they escaped the famine and came to Egypt so that they could survive. And then Joseph passes away at the age of 110. And on from there, we're going to step into Exodus and see how the story unfolds. I'm back for one quick thing. Just a little side note on name pronunciations. Don't let that intimidate you from reading your Bible or reading out loud in a church group. There are so many pronunciations and different ways of saying things for different names, and not as many people know how to say them as we think. For example, Ephraim. So are you familiar with Blue Letter Bible, Strong's G or Strong's H, meaning H Hebrew, G Greek? Well, the Strong's definition or way of saying Ephraim is Ephraim. And then I've heard Ephraim, and I say Ephraim. Ephraim is called the American way of pronouncing it. If you do that Google pronunciation search, you'll hear Ephraim, and so I choose Ephraim. So just so you know, sometimes there are several ways of pronouncing a name in the Bible. Just don't let it intimidate you. It has no bearing on the gospel how we pronounce certain names. Exodus Chapter 1. These are the names of the sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob, each with his family: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. The descendants of Jacob numbered 70 in all. Joseph was already in Egypt. Now Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation died, but the Israelites were exceedingly fruitful. They multiplied greatly, increased in numbers, and became so numerous that the land was filled with them. Then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came to power in Egypt. "Look," he said to his people, "the Israelites have become far too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous, and, if war breaks out, we'll join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country." So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor, and they built Pithom and Ramses as store cities for Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites and worked them ruthlessly. They made their lives bitter with harsh labor in brick and mortar and with all kinds of work in the fields. In their harsh labor, the Egyptians used them ruthlessly. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, "When you help the Hebrew women in childbirth and observe them on the delivery stool, if it is a boy, kill him. But if it is a girl, let her live." The midwives, however, feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, "Why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live?" The midwives answered Pharaoh, "Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwives arrive." So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all the people: "Every Hebrew boy that is born you must throw into the Nile, but every girl live." Chapter 2. Now a man of the house of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered. And the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, I drew him out of the water. So this sweet little baby, saved by his mother and found by Pharaoh's daughter, was Moses. He will grow up and has a great part to play in the story of redemption. Stay tuned.